I'm John Short, and I serve Kent United Methodist Church and have been, well, at least for the remainder of the week anyway, going to Vancouver. Thank you. It's been my privilege to be part of the task force since 2014, and I have been, like you, watching these presentations year after year and thinking about, praying about what would be my opportunity to go. And I had a chance to go last October. But more importantly than us going, I thought it would be great for us to see someone from the Congo come here. And so it is my pleasure to introduce to you Claudine Kasongo, who is the first person to graduate from college out of the Jamaa Letu Orphanage, here to tell her story. Would you welcome her?
Good morning, everyone. It's a great honor for me to be in front of you today, this morning, and share my story with you. I'm so grateful to the Bishop and the Hope for Children of Africa Task Force for inviting me here and meet all of you and share my story. I feel so blessed. I'm so grateful to different families that hosted me during my staying here. I'm so grateful for all that you've done. And I'm so grateful for your work, your love, for the kids at Jamaa Letu. I'm so grateful for your love for us. An orphan. I lost my father when I was 9. And 2 years after that, my mom died. We used to live in another city, and because Congo is not stable, because of the war, we moved from that city to another city. And when we moved there, my mom died, and both my parents died. So life was hard at that time. I was born in a family of 5 children. And I'm before the last born. After my parents' death, our firstborn, my brother, was 16, and our lastborn was 6. Life was hard at that time because my brother had to learn how to become like our parents, how to take care of us, which was not easy because we were living in a new city, we didn't have any relatives. All the people that we knew were in the city that we used to live before. And because of the war, we didn't know where they were because each one went in their own direction. So we were living in the new city without anyone, any person that we knew. And it's hard to live in a big city if you don't know anyone. So life was really hard. My brother has to go and ask people from door to door if they could let him do something for him to feed us and take care of us, which was not easy. Life was hard to find food. Life was hard to find personal needs. Life was hard to have like medical care and things like that. So everything was just difficult. We were living without any hope of survival because things were difficult. We were just waiting for a day where we could just die and join our parents. It was hard. Before my parents' death, we were members of the Methodist Church, and my mom was a leader of the UMW, and my siblings were singing in the church choirs. So one day, my sister heard about the orphanage, and he went to see the pastor and asked him if they could bring me at the orphanage. The pastor contacted Mama Francine Chisola, who is in charge of the orphanage, and then I went at the orphanage. My sister was 14 at that time, and she couldn't come with me because we had a young brother who was 6, and at that time, they started with the girls' orphanage and not the boys' orphanage. So my sister had to stay and take care of my brother because no one else could do it. Because of my brother, my sister couldn't come with me at the orphanage. So I went at the orphanage, I met people there, I met sisters, and we live like in a family, it's a big family, what we call sisters, young sisters and elder sisters. I heard a few months later in the orphanage that my brother and my sister, they moved from the city where we used to live, and then they went to another city. So life was really hard until my brother, the last born, died from anger, and my sister was married by a certain man, not because she loved her, but because she didn't have anyone who could take care of her. So I was in the orphanage, and I had the privilege to be the first one to graduate from high school. And then I went to college at the university. I had to leave the orphanage to go to the university. I went at the boarding house at the university. And that's what happened. When someone graduates from high school, they leave the orphanage, they open a bank account, and then they'll start sending money in the bank account, and you have to learn to live by yourself alone. Life was not really, it was a bit challenging my first year at the university, because I got to learn to know how to manage things, how to take care of money, how to spend money. Because they were giving me money, and I used to give the budget per quarter, tell them what I needed per quarter, and they were sending money. So the thing was, if you don't take good care of the money and you run out of money before the time given ends, then no one will give you money, so you'll starve. So I got to learn how to take good care of money, but it was not easy at the beginning because I didn't know that. It really helped me a lot to be responsible in life. It really helped me a lot to get to take what I need and not what I want. It helped me a lot to be who I am today. I had the blessing to be the first one to graduate from the university. I did public health and nutrition. So I'm a public health and nutritionist. It's really a blessing for me, and not only for me, but also for my brothers and my sisters in the orphanage. I come from the country where not a lot of years ago, women were not allowed to go to school. So it's really a blessing for me to be the first one, the first woman to graduate in the orphanage. It's really a blessing for me. And I'm so grateful for that, for your support and everything. English is not our language. English is my 6th language because I speak 5 languages. So that's why. So that's why it has an accent. I'm sorry for that. I learned English, I'll say by myself. I took English when I was in the high school. It was only 1 hour a week, so 30 minutes, 2 days a week. So it was 1 hour a week, which was not enough. And I didn't have people that I could talk with, because with the language you need practice. You need to talk to practice it. So I was really motivated to learn English because of the people that used to come from the US to the orphanage. Those people were just speaking English. They were not speaking another language. So it was really hard for us to talk to them. They had people who were translating for them, but only in a group. Like, we could say something in a group and then they tell them. I couldn't talk to them individually. And we had children from the Sunday schools used to send cards and letters for Christmas and New Year. So everything was just written in English, which made things hard again. So I thought, what am I going to do to be closer to these people? What am I going to do to get to talk to them because we really love them and they're coming from far to us, but still I can't talk to them. Still I can't communicate. They sent the first container that came, they brought us videotapes and some books. And those videotapes were about Barney. So I was really watching Barney shows a lot. And when I came, I asked Pastor John if I could see him. I really wanted to meet Barney. But unfortunately, I couldn't because he lives in California, and then I can't meet him. But I really wanted to meet him. Yeah, so I was watching Barney's show and watching cartoons, reading books, and then downloading stuff from the internet to improve my vocabulary. So that's how I learned English, and I have a blessing. I'm teaching at the United Methodist English-speaking school of Lubumbashi as a half-time teacher at the elementary school. I teach from 1st grade through 4th grade. And it's really a blessing for me. I thank you so very much for your support and for everything that you're doing. I'm a nutritionist, and I was really motivated to do nutrition because I realized that the main thing that people are suffering from in my area is the lack of food. I did my training at the hospital for 1 year, and I noticed that the most vulnerable people are children. And I'm learning how to give solution to that problem. I've thought a lot about that, and I've realized that I need to do my master's degree to give the solution to that, to give solution to what I'm doing. And as a woman, I think it's a great thing because people still think in my area that women can't. We still have the problem of equality between men and women, although it's not official, but we still have it. So it's really helping me to go forward with my studies and things like that. I thank you so much for making me who I am today. I would never imagine to be who I am today. So it's because of your help. It's because of your support. What I'll tell you, you're not losing anything by helping the orphanage. I'm so happy that people are following my step. There's now 5 girls at the orphanage who are at university and 4 boys, and other more are coming next year. They're graduating from high school. They'll start university next year. I'm so happy for that. So I thank you so much for your support. You're not losing anything, but you are making the future leaders of tomorrow, the future leaders of the church, the future leaders of our country. We need education to help our country, the Democratic Republic of Congo, go forward. So thank you so much for everything.
I trust that you will agree with me. She truly is a blessing. Amen?
Amen.
Besides having the fun of bringing blessing to the United States, the Hope for the Children of Africa Task Force has been involved in some other interesting and important projects this past year. I'll talk about the computer lab, and Barbara will talk about the cooperation agreement. We have an opportunity to partner with the United Methodist Communications General Agency, the Northwest Foundation, and the Pacific Northwest Annual Conference in installing computer labs in both the boys and the girls orphanage. There were about 5 laptop computers installed in the labs, along with a solar backup system, because power is so reliable in Lubumbashi. We also provided training for those who would be supporting the computer labs and training the children how to use the computers. The laptops were loaded with curriculum for helping with homework, curriculum for kindergarten through 12th grade, in addition to software that would help with word processing and Excel spreadsheets. And this happened just in time because the government recently created a law or implemented a law that required those that were graduating from high school have familiarity with using a computer. And so this helps our family in the Congo stay in line with that requirement. United Methodist Communications is doing this project as a test project because they're hoping to replicate computer labs across the world in remote areas. And so they were interested in finding out what kind of computers would work well in this dusty situation with spotty power, and what kind of challenges they faced, not only with language barriers, but skill level differences. And so this is a learning project for the United Methodist Communications folks, as well as us, as we continue to live into this project. And we're hoping down the road to expand to offer the capability for internet connection so that the students can get online and do their homework. But that's a little bit of what was happening in the computer or in the orphanages around the areas of the computer labs that were installed. Barbara.
Before the remarks that I have prepared, just a quick update. The footage which David used regarding the construction is a little bit dated, and I'm glad to report that those buildings are now complete, and including the security wall. So this is good. So, yes, and you helped it. You made it possible. And the local people, of course, also. This is a relationship. It's a partnership. And just recently was signed something called, did we get that on the screen? No, we did. There it is, first page. At General Conference, our conference hosted a dinner for all of the Congolese people present, delegates, alternates, staff, etc. And 65 Congolese people were our guests for dinner that night. There were almost that many from the US also present. It was a festive and fun occasion. Claudine was among the speakers, and we celebrated who we are together. But part of that evening was a ceremonial signing of the cooperation agreement. This agreement is historic and groundbreaking. It's a partnership. We need to, and we are moving into a different culture of relationships. We're moving, it will take us a while to live into it, but we're looking at so that we look at it as more than funding a project. It is a project, and we are funding it, but it is more than funding a project. They have as many responsibilities, the South Congolese leadership, to us as we have to them. You know how many times you and I have prayed for people who we do not know? Well, people who don't know us are praying for us. The adults surrounding the orphanages, the children and youth in the orphanage, the students, they are praying for us, even though they only have met a small handful of us. It is mutual. They are providing us information. The photos, you know, the ones that scrolled a few minutes ago, they came just a couple of weeks ago, maybe it was a month. They're providing us the materials for our work as we're providing them material resources and prayer support and other kinds of support there. So it's a mutuality, and it's going to take us a while to remember. We slip, we will, and so will they. Our responsibilities include that moral support, that prayer support, that praying. Our responsibilities are creating here a culture of generosity, a culture of caring for people. I shouldn't say creating, it's already here, nurturing that culture of generosity. And yes, It's about providing them dependable funding for that they can care for the children and not worry from day to day for enough funding to provide that care. And so this agreement, now do we have the picture of the actual ceremony? There it is. You see the hands, you see Bishop Katembo on the right and his hands on the far right. You see Bishop Hagia, and I call him by title for that, the role that he was in that setting. And you see his hands in the lower left. These two leaders of the Episcopal areas on our behalf have signed that agreement. It is groundbreaking, it is historic, it is important. If you actually want to turn the pages, at our display down the hall, there's a copy and you can finger it. Oh, take it with you if you wish. We have several copies. And so I share with you this continuing growth in a relationship. John, I think you had something.
Well, and I wanted to pick up just a little bit on the cooperative agreement, because one of the things it did within the Congo was create a board of trustees that now we, the Hope for the Children of Africa Task Force, relate to in the Congo. And the Board of Trustees are now overseeing the orphanages in the Congo. And so it is more like a partnership instead of we're helping you. And so that was one of the significant things about this cooperation agreement. One of the other things we did at the dinner was we recognized and celebrated the fact that Claudine had graduated from the first person out of the orphanage to graduate from college. And so I want to celebrate and recognize that again here in this place so that we might congratulate her. So if you would come forward. Now I have this plaque, but it's not in English. It's in a language you might recognize, but I'm told it says something along the lines with, "Congratulations, Kasongo, blessing Claudine for being the first graduate from out of the orphanage of Jamaa Letu." Is that pretty close?
Yep.
Oh, my French is pretty good?
You're right.
Oh, okay, good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I do want to talk a little bit about money, and so fasten your seatbelts. We've talked about the strong support that we have provided over the past 16, 17 years. Strong support that has funded the construction of a 60-bed girls' orphanage, a 30-bed boys' orphanage, and in the early years has been, the response has been tremendous. And that initial push in the early years have provided substantial reserves for us to use in helping to sustain the running of these orphanages. In fact, the financial information that Barbara gave me shows that in the 16 years that we have been in partnership, this conference has sent $1.7 million in support of the orphanages in the Congo. I think that's an applause-worthy thing. But I'm talking about money today because there is a concern. There's a trend that I am seeing and I am concerned about, and particularly because it will impact our family in the Congo. Since 2010, we have tried to provide a level of support of $80,000 each year. And that's been made up of several different sources. And if I could have that slide, you can see that the blue represents those sponsorships that we have provided. Either churches will sponsor an orphan, or individuals or groups. And so in 2015, that number was $41,000. So that represents about, I didn't do the division, sorry. You can figure it out. 41,000 divided by 493, that's how many sponsorships. The pink represents the jars for Jamaa Letu. It looks a little bit red on my screen here, so it might be red or pink. And that's that collection that we make each year. And in fact, today we'll be receiving those gifts that you have been collecting, jars for Jamaa Letu. As we exit for the break, we're going to invite you to leave your donations at the exits. Last year, $13,000 came in through the Jars for Jamaa Letu. There are some miscellaneous funds that come in throughout the year. Some of you participate in that Giving Tuesday, and where your money is doubled by gifts from the general church. And so through different forms of giving, we've had some extra giving. Last year was about $5,000. But as you can see, the amount that we have been collecting is not meeting that $80,000 commitment. And so the purple represents the amount that we have needed to take from the excess that we have been holding for these years, the initial years that provided a great reserve. Currently, the reserve is at $50,000. Last year, we needed to dip into reserve at $21,000. You can see that if we continue at that pace, it means that we have just about 2 years of reserves left. So we are in a challenging spot. You need to know also that this $80,000 doesn't fully fund the operations of the orphanages. In fact, they do many things to help make up the difference between what we are able to send them and the money that they need. They get in-kind donations from local agencies and groups in their area. Their churches now, because the economy is beginning to improve in the Congo, the Methodist churches in the area are beginning to be able to support the orphanages as well. The Board of Trustees are now looking at other places to receive donations, and so there is some work in that regard. Even the orphanages have money-making projects. The girls ran a preschool out of the orphanage, and the boys raise chickens and ducks for sale. So these variety of ways of fundraisings are helping to support. But one of the ways they've had to use to limit the expenses is they've not been able to serve as many orphans. And in fact, our orphanages are not running at capacity. The 60-bed girls' orphanage, about 43 girls currently are in that orphanage. The 30-bed boys' orphanage, about 27 boys. And so you can see it's a balancing act. And so it's a challenge. One other thing I've noticed, a trend that I want to highlight for you, and that's the other chart that I've provided. Since 2010, these are the number of churches that have been participating, individual churches that are participating in some form or another in contributions to Hope for the Children of Africa. 2010, 116 churches. 2015, 76 churches. 40 churches in the last 5 years have stopped participating in contributing to Hope for the Children of Africa. Also, you should know that there are 250 churches approximately in our conference. My hope is that we would have 250 churches participating. The other thing that you've heard is that we are helping to fund education. The reality is that not every one of the orphans want to go to college, but they do want to learn a trade. And so we've committed to either sponsoring them to help learn a trade or sponsoring them to get their undergraduate degree, both as a means to help them sustain themselves after they are out of the orphanage. And so we created, not too many years ago, this opportunity for you to provide an educational scholarship. So you have orphan sponsorships at $493 and educational sponsorships at $500 apiece. As you heard Claudine say, that there are 9 that are currently being supported in the university. We anticipate in the next 2 years there will be 12 more. So you can do the math, right? It's $4,000 per student per year. If we've got 12 more coming in the next 2 years, that's going to be nearly a $50,000 hit. We are not prepared for that. And so we need to step up. And so it is my hope, as we've seen with the Imagine No Malaria and the Ministry Fund Drive, that this conference is generous in its support of these important projects. You've received on your tables an envelope, and it says, "Each one, support one." My invitation is for you to, if you so choose today, perhaps you fill out the application form to sponsor an orphan or to sponsor an educational scholarship. You can fill in your name, and you can turn that in as you exit, put it in the offering buckets as well. If you are prepared to write a check to cover that now, great. If not, your credit is good with us. We know where you live, and we'll get back with you. Perhaps you need to take it back to your church and talk to your church about how you might sponsor. Now, I know that, we have 76 churches that are sponsoring orphans. Some are sponsoring one. The church I serve for the next week or so sponsors 20. Yes, it is amazing, and it was nothing that I did. It was the folks that were doing that before I got there. But the way they did it is their Sunday school department sponsors an orphan, and they work raising money year-round so that they can support an orphan. Our youth group sponsors an orphan. Our men's group sponsors an orphan. One family in our church sponsors 4. Some families in our church, instead of giving Christmas gifts, give each other an orphan sponsorship. So you can be creative about how you do this. And I believe that we can reverse this trend and that we can reach 250. As you think about it, 250 sponsorships at about $500, that's $120,000. That's more than the $80,000 we need, and it's well on the way to covering the educational scholarships that we need as well. We're only limited by our imagination. So in closing, I want to invite you to consider what we've said as far as what Jamaa Letu means. Our family. You ready for me to close? You ready for me? Okay, there was some movement behind me. I thought I was ready. I'm going in for the close. Our family. And as I was thinking about it, we can see that in 3 different ways. As these children who have lost their parents come together in an orphanage, they create a family. Blessing talked about her sisters that she shared stories with, that she shared life with, that bond that they've created together as a family when they've lost their family. It also talks about our relationship as the Pacific Northwest Conference and the South Congo Conference. We see each other as sisters and brothers in a family relationship. And these kids are part of our family. I was touched when we were at the dinner and Bishop Katembo said, "These people who don't even know us love us." And I said, yes, that's what it's about. But I also think about family in the way that Jesus thought about family. In Matthew 25, when he talks about, "Whenever you did this unto the least of these, my family, you did it unto me." And so as sisters and brothers in Christ, as human children together, we are part of this large family. And our invitation is that we continue to support our family, Jamaa Letu. Thank you.